Hello, you are watching and or listening to Skill Check, the Positive Gaming Podcast from YMCA Exeter. My name is Andy.
And my name is Becky.
And you're expecting me to talk about weather this week, aren't you?
Always. We always expect you to talk about the weather. It's quite a British thing.
It is,
I would like to say that I think because the weather is so changeable in this country, that's why we talk about it a lot.
That would explain things. And also, we're just not built for this sort of weather.
Yeah, so it's hot. If you're not aware, it's hot.
In fact, this is probably the coolest place.
He reckons it's the coolest place in Exeter. It's pretty cool in the day.
Actual, refrigeration units or anything like that, or air conditioning.
We're in the basement of the building, and it's cooler down here than it is probably upstairs. So.
And it works, and it almost works really well.
Yeah. It's nice. We were in the attic for a while. This is a change.
The attic was a bit warm.
Yeah, it was a bit warm. We used to get very warm up there.
Welcome to the humidity podcast.
Yeah. What have we got coming up? I got there first.
Well, we are talking. Well, I had a conversation this week about screen time.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
We are talking. We're talking Forza Horizon because why the heck not?
Yep.
But first things first, we have gaming news. Now, first things first, we have gaming news.
Yes, our first piece of gaming news. Again, I didn't write these this week, so we'll see how we go with them. Andy, I wrote two. I wrote one. Andy wrote two. Here we go. Our first piece of gaming news this week is. Am I reading the right bit? No, I'm not reading the right bit. I've scrolled up to the right bit of the news. Our first piece of gaming news this week. Video games with deep levels of strategy are becoming increasingly unappealing, according to a new study. The report from Quantic Foundry collected 9 years of data from the researcher's own gamer motivation profile tool, which tracks how appealing different aspects of games are to different people. Categories including destruction, excitement, competition, community challenge, strategy, completion, power, fantasy, story, discovery, and design. Across its 1.7 million surveys, Quantic Foundry found that 2/3 of strategy fans worldwide, except China, where gamers have very different motivation profiles, have lost interest in elements of video games. 67% of gamers today care less about strategic thinking and planning when playing games than the average gamer back in June 2015, the report reads.
I mean, what is this? Is this like another kind of social media-esque
everyone's losing concentration? Is that what it would like? Yeah.
It could be that in video games.
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
It could just be fashion.
What would you count as a strategy game?
Civilization 5.
Okay.
Any kind of more. I'm trying not to say the words strategic thinking.
I think you meant like.
Did you just said?
Yeah, I just did. We're just gonna ignore it. Did you thinking? So I used to play Age of Empires 2. So is that a strategy game? Okay.
Yeah, kind of games where you've got to kind of sit back, plan.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And then and it's very kind of complex thinking, I guess.
Yep. Okay.
And sorry. And yeah, maybe it's a time thing. Maybe it's an attention thing.
Yeah, I mean, we did play Age of Empires 2 for quite a long time. It was quite a long thing.
Once you kind of get into those games, it's very much. It is kind of what it.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
It's like those games are what you play. Maybe at the moment, we're all playing something else. He says looking direction of games like Fortnite. Don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Our second piece of gaming news today is that old video games could be worth a lot of money. London-based decluttering expert Emma Knight from Urban Locker has encouraged everyone to sift through their supposed junk, as it may harbour hidden treasures potentially worth a small fortune. In particular, old computer games that have fallen out of use could fetch up to £44,995. The team conducted a thorough search on eBay for some of the priciest video games, and if you happen to own any of the following, you could be unknowingly sitting on a treasured trove, reports the Mirror. Some examples of games found and their asking prices are a sealed copy of Zelda's Ocarina of Time. It's Nintendo 64, £44,995. Super Mario 64 on the N64, Nintendo 64, £12,999. Golden Axe 3, Sega Mega Drive, £1,888. And Grand Theft Auto PlayStation 1, £1,200. Yeah, and this is like a sealed copy of that, basically.
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is on our kind of local Devon Live website. I was like, kind of saw it. I was like, it kind of, we cannot not talk about it. And it's like, it's a lot of money, but it is what the asking prices are. It's not what they are being sold for.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, Grand Theft Auto for PlayStation, I'm fairly certain. I mean, it's not a sealed copy.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain I've got one kicking around the attic somewhere.
I was looking at my Game Boy the other day. I still have my Game Boy Color.
Oh, okay.
So,
a bit of gaming history.
Yeah. From back in the day. So my Game Boy Color, which we for some reason dug out of the loft recently. Yes, it's been in the loft. Yes, it's been there for a while.
That's where a lot of these things live. I mean, I've got an old PlayStation up in my loft.
Yeah, we find it in the loft. We were like, oh, this is cool. And then it still works.
Yeah.
It's just fun. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've got an old actual Game Boy kind of with the green screen.
Yeah.
Somewhere where
that's probably worth a bit of money now.
It is basically a Tetris machine.
Yeah.
Really. But Tetris, there's nothing wrong with Tetris. It's always the game that Game Boys were pretty much made for.
I also found my Nintendo DS the other day. This is my like Nintendo history of like all the things that I've owned. So I found my Game Boy Color and my Nintendo DS. There you go. I was doing really well. I was like, oh, Nintendo DS, Game Boy. This is brilliant.
So,
I'll keep hold of them and I might make some money in a few years' time.
Do that.
Our final piece of gaming news this week is a gaming group that provides a safe and inclusive space for gamers has received thousands of pounds from a business improvement district bid. Tactic North East in Sunderland provides a space for tabletop gamers to play, take part in tournaments and make models. It has received £5,000 in funding from Sunderland bid so that it can provide additional services including paint and play days as well as gaming social events. Chris White, who runs the venue, said gamers would have nowhere else to go to fulfill their hobby if Tactic North East did not exist. There is a large gaming community in the North East and part of the demographic is young people, some trans, some neurodivergent, some experience mental health difficulties, he said. And we recognise that there was a need and that there are young people who are lonely, isolated and had nowhere else to go to find like-minded friends. So we opened the venue. This is really cool. It's a little cafe.
I love this.
Yeah.
So a little bit different to what we'd normally talk about now.
Yeah.
This is tabletop gaming.
It is tabletop gaming.
I think what I love about this is that they've so obviously kind of seen what their client group are. Their client group, there's a vulnerability there.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to do more. We want to do more to be able to encourage these communities around us. And the local bid in Sunderland have kind of recognised that.
Yeah.
And gone, let's help you.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So it sounds like really good work that is happening up there in order to encourage particularly those groups of people.
Yeah.
Which, well done to them.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. I think we also, because we do like a game, well, they don't really run it anymore, but we've done like cafes and gaming spaces and stuff for young people. And so I think it's recognising that young people can experience isolation and loneliness as much as older people can. And actually it's using different ways, like different hobbies and interests that young people have to bring people together, which is really cool. So, and that is the end of gaming news.
So I was having a chat with someone this week about kind of what I do
Yep.
And somehow the subject of gaming came up.
What a surprise! Because other than that, quite a bit of your job these days.
Well, it is and it is. It's definitely a part of my job.
Part of your job, yeah.
And I was like talking about how I want to, how I've got to make time, got to make sure, kind of got to protect that because there's lots of kind of websitey things and other bits and pieces that kind of somehow come my way as well.
Yeah.
But as part of this conversation, as seems to be the way, the almost immediate topic of how long people should game for.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? And because that seems to be the big thing that people want to kind of ask questions about and talk about, which is kind of reason why I thought we should probably talk about it again.
Yeah, we do talk about it quite a lot.
we talk about it quite a lot, and I think things like this conversation is probably the reason, because it is something that people are concerned about and looking for answers on. I mean, completely separately, I had my mum, my daughter's gran, around yesterday to basically be the functional adults in the house when I was working. Yep. Which is great. And there was very much a conversation over, so from my mum's point of view, that actually, whilst my daughter seems to play on her phone quite a bit, actually that was her playing with her friends. And she could hear the conversation, and she could hear that they're just chatting away. And we kind of talked about actually what that means is that when they meet up in person, because they're not in the same city, this particular friend, that when they meet up in person, they're like as thick as thieves straight away. You know,
they spent so much time together. That's why.
Exactly. There's none of this kind of slight nervousness, kind of getting to know each other thing to start with, like 5 minutes, half an hour, however long it is for people to kind of start to relax with each other again. They kind of get straight to it, you know, and it is because of this gaming. So I was like, we should probably talk about it. But the thing is, it's very much one of those things where there isn't an easy, straightforward answer. And there's, I guess the problem is there's a lot of nuance that's needed. In that, in the conversation I had originally, it was very much, well, why are they gaming? Why? It's like, what's the point of gaming? Are they gaming with friends? Are they just sat in front of a screen?
It's hard. I think we talk about it so much. I think like we get asked questions. I think even some of like our colleagues ask us questions. Not in a like hostile way, in a very much like a we want to learn, we want to adapt, we want to change what we believe and stuff. So actually like we have lots of conversations about screen time and like how long people should be staying on there, like playing games and not going outside and all this kind of stuff. And actually like it is, I mean, we always talk about how it's a hobby and anybody dedicates their time to their hobby. Like if your hobby is rock climbing, you're going to spend some time rock climbing. If your hobby if your hobby is swimming, you're going to swim. Like if your hobby is dancing, you're going to dance. And actually like we treat it like this, like we almost treat gaming and screen time like it's this bad thing. We're like, oh, they're not going outside and stuff, but it's people's hobby. Like and treat it like a hobby and say actually it's okay to spend some time doing it. It's just how much time you spend doing it, and that's where it, you know, that's
and the thing is, how much time is too much time? And at what point do we turn around to people and say you spend too much time swimming, or you spend too much time going out to play golf, or whatever.
Every person is different as well. That's the other thing. Like,
indeed,
like some people, the limit might be a couple of hours. Some people could be doing it all day. Like some people, you know. And one thing I heard about one
what some of our friends do is that they're getting a lot more laid back with their child's screen time.
Yeah.
But in that overall, they're allowing more. But they're like, no, actually, it's been 20 minutes now. We'd like you to go do something else for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is arguably a best of both worlds approach, I guess.
Yeah.
If you really want to do something.
Yeah.
Limiting in that way. But again, it's a nuance. Every child different.
Yeah.
Everyone is different.
Yeah.
I was talking the other day about the catchphrase to go out and touch grass.
Mm.
And, that phrase has kind of come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's been created for a reason. And it has been picked up and used in internet culture to basically say, get out and disconnect.
Mm.
And, well, that's got to be a thing for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And, so maybe it's less a case of managing screen time and more kind of managing, actually, you need to go do something else now.
Mm.
You need to kind of connect with something
else, yeah. And I don't think, I honestly don't think that young people think that being on a screen and talking to your friends on a screen is a replacement for face-to-face interaction. I do not in any way believe that. And I think it's a bit of a myth that young people are replacing their real friends with online friends. We talked a little while ago about this survey saying that actually, most of the guys that are playing with friends online now are playing with their people they know, and actually that's it's just a different way of having a friendship. It's having a friendship across two different platforms rather than just having friends in real life. They're my online friends are my same as my real life friends.
Wasn't there a survey a while ago about age differences and how those age differences look at offline and online? Yeah.
So this is the other thing, is that we so both you and I are of the generation where we distinguish online and offline presence. So offline, I am not the same person that I am online. I protect myself online. I don't post stuff a lot on Facebook. I don't do a lot of because we have this distinction between that's my online personality, this is my offline personality. Young people aren't like that. There's a lot of psychological research been done recently to say that young people see it as the same thing.
Yeah.
So online and offline, they are the same person. So it's part of their lives. It's not, there's no online, offline personality. It's very much, I am who I am online. I am who I am offline. We're the same. And it's
a different scene.
Yeah. It's probably one of the hardest things I've had to get my mind into, because I think for me, I'm always like, oh, but that's protecting. I'm protecting myself from being online. And I know, and I hear so many horrible stories about what's happened online and stuff. And it's been one of the hardest things, for somebody that I work with under 18s.
Yeah. It's
been one of the hardest things I've had to get my mind into, is that mindset of actually they do not see a distinction between online and offline. And a lot of the young people that we work with have social media and have an online presence and on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. And they love it, but they see it as just part of their lives. They don't see it as this is a tool like we do. We're just this is something that I do, a bit of extra, that kind of stuff. Whereas they just don't have that distinction. It's just part of them.
Yeah.
And so it does create a difference. And I think it's just, some of it is acknowledging as adults, acknowledging that their lives are very different from how we were as kids, and that is creating a different environment for them to grow up in. And actually it's how you do it healthily, how you encourage them to be healthy about screen time and not screen time, and but also not we've had conversations with parents that have deprived their kids of screens when they're naughty, and actually that's really unhelpful. I know that every parent is different. Everyone, I don't want to criticize any parents. I think parents are doing it. I'm not a parent, so I don't know.
And it's all about kind of doing the best you can.
But I think it's just, it's an industry we've had loads of, and I've had to really think about, is that good idea to like punish your kids by taking away their screens when it's part of their life. And yes, talk to them about how to be healthy on it, restricting screen time, this kind of stuff. I absolutely agree with that. I just think we, like, as adults, we need to adapt and to talk to them about how we change the way that we like respond to them with screens. So
I guess 2 points that I'd love us to kind of get to.
Yeah.
So before we finish this section, the first one isn't really gaming as such. It's more of a look at social media and the use of screen time, quote unquote screen time, including just kind of sat there kind of scrolling,
doom scrolling,
things like that. I think it was the same day that I had the initial conversation that kicked all this off. I saw an article on the BBC website which had the headline, "I cut phone screen time in half and life changed." I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
It is an interesting look into the use of phones. And I guess the other reason why I'm mentioning it here is that you do have the argument that actually to go from gaming to scrolling on your phones, that's still screen time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's an interesting look at phone screen time particularly. The other point, which again I'll include a link to it in the show notes, is basically a lot of what we've been talking about from a parent's point of view. Who I think she's a reporter for The Independent, talking about trying to parent her kids through use of screen time, through use of gaming, her own expectations as well in regards to what parenting would look like.
Yeah.
And in particularly that she had the idea that parenting would include a lot of going out for trips, jumping around forests, going down to the beach, down the beach, going up tours, and all those sorts of kind of big adventures.
Yeah.
And boom, there they are.
Wanting them to be on the screen.
Playing on the GameCube or Super Nintendo, whatever it is that they are kind of talking about. It is purposely retro consoles that they're talking about.
Okay.
It's not ridiculously old.
Yeah.
And she kind of finishes saying about, in the meantime, that she'll be busy restricting her own screen dependence. And she quotes her daughter saying, why do you say you don't like phones when you keep looking at yours? And she had no answer.
Yeah, it has to start with the parent. That's what I'm learning.
Well, it does have to start with all of us.
Yeah, it's true. I recently had this thing at youth club. This is a side tangent where we have to keep times at youth club. We have to make sure that we're running to time and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I realised is that I need to get a watch because I am really dependent on my phone and I try really hard not to pull my phone out when I'm at youth club. We use it for music, so that's really, it just stays near the music box normally, where the speaker is. That music box makes me sound really old. And so we put a Bluetooth speaker. My phone sits near the Bluetooth speaker so that when I move around, it doesn't go with me. And I keep my work phone on me because in case it's an emergency. And so I try really hard not to take my phones out when I'm at youth club, trying to concentrate on the young people. But I don't have a watch. And so constantly I'm there going, just got to check the time. But it's just really difficult to then not get distracted by there's an email. And that's what I find the hardest is that I was sitting there going, I'm going to have to get a watch because this is the only way that I'm going to stop getting my phone out every time I need to have, and then getting distracted by emails and text messages and 79 messages from colleagues last night and that kind of stuff.
That's not the regular.
It's not the normal. There was a little crisis. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thing.
Fine.
But
But yeah, you're right. It's an interesting, I guess, question for everyone.
Yeah.
And that how does screen time is staring at screens healthy for us?
Yeah.
How do we manage that healthiness, and how do we kind of adapt to this world where actually almost everything feels like it's on screen these days?
Yeah. And now it's time for Andy's Game of the Week. Andy, what is your game this week?
All right, so I've had a few conversations with a few people the last few weeks, and the topic of Forza Horizon 5 has kept on coming up, and there's only a certain amount of times I've been told that I need to start playing, or at least keep playing Forza Horizon 5 until I kind of crack and go, oh, all right then, I'll start playing it. I played it when it first came out. I should probably explain what the game is first. Yeah. So Forza Horizon 5, basically it's a racing car game.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to it than that, and there's a lot more exploration
that
happens in the car. Do not think a racing car game where you kind of go through menus and select the racing course that you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's you drive to the course, you drive to the challenge, you drive to that jump that you want to take.
Fair.
And there's obviously kind of different cars, and there's bits and pieces to do. I believe you can take photos and stuff like that in the game as well.
Yeah. I want to try. I'm trying to remember playing. I have played Forza. That's one of the games that I played at Youth Club.
It made a really big splash when it first came out on Game Pass. I played it then, and me being the silly guy I am, I didn't really go back to it because my attention span with games kind of jumps from game to game quite a bit.
What? You mean you don't play?
So I started playing this again on Monday just gone. I'm like, why did I ever put this game down?
Yeah.
This game's amazing. I mean, loads of set pieces, like kind of jumping out of a plane and things like that.
That's fun.
To start with.
That's, yeah.
Jumping out in the car.
That's more fun.
And the car lands, and then
you go.
And you just start
Nice.
going, and you kind of drive around jungles and deserts, and it's good fun. Is that coming across? I'm hoping it's coming across that it's good fun.
Yeah, you can race in Forza. That's what we normally do at Youth Club, is we race each other.
Yeah.
But generally, what happens is I crash. I don't have an Xbox. We have an Xbox at Youth Club, and I am not used to using an Xbox.
Maybe you should borrow that.
And so I just crash. I crash into a lot of things. I get
Xbox.
stuck. It was like when I used to play Mario Kart when I was little, where in the days where you couldn't, like, there were certain places you could get stuck in Mario Kart and then never move again. Right. In like the old days, on the N64 days, because that's how old I am.
So you kind of got stuck.
Yeah, and I used to just get stuck in a corner, and then you couldn't. I think you could reverse, but I feel like there were areas of Mario Kart where you could just get stuck and just stay there. But yeah, so I mean, for me, that's what happens with Forza now. Is I just hit the barrier, and yeah, I always get beat. The young people at Youth Club really enjoy a game where they can beat me. So they love playing Forza with me. They love playing Rocket League, any of those games. FIFA. They love playing FIFA with me because they're like, oh, this is really fun. I just get into the goal.
Forza 4 that you're playing.
I think it's 4.
Okay. So
I'm not
Forza
sure.
Horizon 5.
Yeah.
It has a very handy rewind feature.
Okay.
You can just hold down the Y button, and it'll rewind the last, I don't know how long it is.
Wow.
So you can get out of, that turn that you just did not make, and you end up spinning, and you hit
crashing
a tree
into the
and
crash barriers and things.
Yeah, or go into a river, or if you decide to go off the bridge for no good reason, you can hit the Y button and
nice
adjust your life choices somewhat.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So I kind of hope you don't do that.
Not in real life.
That's good.
In Forza.
Available on Windows, Xbox, and Game Pass.
Nice. So that is all we have time for today in this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you don't follow us on social medias, please do. We're at YMCA Exeter and at YMCA Exeter Games. And if you're on YouTube, do like and comment and subscribe. Hello. And yeah, we will see you next week.
Take care.